The future is here.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future.
We're marching ahead, blazing new trails. This is the future. We're setting sail. We're building a path to things we never done. Tomorrow is here, it's rising with the sun. An evolution, revolutions come. It's only started, only just begun. This is the moment we've been waiting for. So open up the door.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the.
You know.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the.
You are.
Welcome to
A new dawn. A new day. A new plan. Yeah.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the. Welcome to the future. Future.
Better than ever, born to be great. This is the moment that history's made. Nothing can stop us, ain't seen nothing yet. The lights are on and now the stage is set. Imagination, innovation's here. The pictures never ever look so clear. This is the day a new dawn is near. The future's here.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the.
You are.
Welcome to
A new dawn. A new day. A new world. Yeah.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the. Welcome to the future. Future.
The future is here.
Tomorrow is here, it's rising with the sun. An evolution, revolutions come. It's only started.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the.
You know.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
Welcome to the. Welcome to the.
You are.
Welcome to
A new dawn. A new day. A new world. Yeah.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to the. Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
The future. Welcome to the future.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Welcome
How's it?
to another AMA with YGG. I am Saratobi Sasuke, head of partnerships at Yield Guild Games. Unfortunately, it's just me today. I'm joined with some great founders of Monster Racing League. I have Ashish and John. If you guys want to do us the honor of introducing yourselves, guys.
Sure, great to be here. I'm John O'Reilly, creative director of Flightless, based here in New Zealand, indie game dev studio.
Hey, I'm Ashish, Chief Blockchain Officer of FatLoot.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming, guys, today. We're really excited to hear about Monster Racing League. I'm lucky enough to have heard about it a little bit, but for those in the audience that haven't already heard about it, I'd love to get the elevator pitch for the project.
Yeah, I mean, Monster Racing League is a play-to-earn multi-racing game that combines skill and strategy. So it's we keep throwing around terms like auto racer, but it's actually a completely different genre. So monsters drive themselves down the tracks, and it's your job to equip them with abilities and play those abilities throughout the race to disrupt your opponents and win the race.
Awesome, that sounds good. So, I mean, are there any games that you'd kind of compare it to?
Not really. It's got aspects of kind of Mario Kart, but then it hasn't got the driving of Mario Kart. And then it's got some kind of real-time strategy component to it, but it's not a full-on real-time strategy. So, I mean, part of this discussion with our community is to kind of work out what the genre name is, isn't it, Ashish? We're kind of struggling there for a little bit, but it's a good space to be in.
Auto racer is just, it's not a good description because people jump immediately to like Pegaxy, and it's nothing like that, because Pegaxy, it's kind of a random number generator situation where you just click a button and everything races. This is actually you have to really strategically time and use abilities like missiles and shove and shields. So it's very involved. It's not something where you just click a button and then watch stuff happen. It's very addictive. You'd have to try it to
real
play
kind of skill component to playing Monster Racing League.
Oh yeah. It's until you try it, until you download the game and check it out, it doesn't make sense, because like John said, it's just, there's no other game I've seen out there. That's what got me hooked to it, that takes that concept. And I suck at racing games personally, so the fact that I got addicted to it was impressive.
I think we're kind of onboarding people who like the idea of racing games but aren't very good at steering.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. I mean, like I historically have quite enjoyed racing games quite a bit. So I've been a fan of Crash Team Racing, Mario Kart, Gran Turismo, Grand Theft Auto. Even though Grand Theft Auto is not, not completely just about the racing, though, right?
Yeah, we tend to do this at Flutters. We kind of make games that don't sit in the proper genre. Our real-time strategy space game we made a few years ago was pitched. The elevator pitch for that was a real-time strategy space game for people that don't have time to play real-time strategy space games. So we kind of go out of our way to not fit in the genre sometimes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, obviously, like, I know that you guys are developing like a few different types of games at the moment. What made you kind of decide to kind of go for this type of game as opposed to other types of games that are out there, and how will this work within the kind of ecosystem of games that you guys are developing?
Well, it was kind of the next cab off the rank for us. We'd just come to the end of our kind of development cycle on our last game, Doomsday Vault, which is an Apple Arcade launch title. And we had a number of different games in the studio that we're getting ready to pitch to traditional publishers. And we've been playing around with Monster Racing League for about a year now, and we had a demo going, and we knew it was a really catchy, kind of fun game to play. And then we started to talk to the Fat Loot guys, Ashish and Josh, about doing something kind of blockchainy. As a small-ish indie studio, you're always looking for kind of new avenues to explore, ways to stand out. Like generally that comes through either gameplay or sometimes a business model. And we thought it would be worthwhile having a chat with Ashish and Josh about what we could do with this game. And once they played our demo, I think the ball got rolling quite quickly, didn't it, Ashish?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for us it was just so different than anything else we've got in the pipeline. Untamed Isles is an MMO. The other games are big. I mean, you need to spend some time. It's not something where you can just play a pickup game in less than 10 minutes, if you're between meetings or you're on a lunch break. So that was really the appeal for us, is this is a game you can literally grab a race if you've got less than 10 minutes of time. It's a short learning curve, which was the most impressive thing. I remember the first time I saw the demo that Josh sent me from John, there was no tutorial, no nothing, but I was shocked by the fact that I could instantly start playing without any instructions. It was just so self-intuitive. It was, for me, I'm very excited to see when the mobile version comes out, what's going to happen at that point, because it's just one of those very it'll appeal to people who aren't hardcore gamers. That's what I love the most about it. I'm like, man, this has some crazy potential just because of how simple it is. So it fit in nicely that it wasn't really in the same class or genre of the current games. It was just a whole new type of player base we'd be onboarding into the ecosystem, and just was like, this, we've got to have this the moment we saw it. So
For sure. No, that's exciting stuff. So in terms of the team and how you guys kind of got together, I'd love to hear a little bit about how that process all panned out.
Yeah,
I
I
think it
mean,
was a VC, right, John? It was a
Yeah,
mutual venture capital.
Yeah, we had mutual investment from a VC fund, and he kind of connected us together. What we otherwise probably wouldn't have known about Fat Loot too much, even though part of the studio is based in the same place where we live. We we didn't even know of you guys before then, and we've been around a while. Me and my business partner Greg, we started Flightless back in 2005, so we are old school, and we started out as a design studio, and so we've transitioned from a design studio doing branding and a lot of high-end kind of museum interaction design into a fully fledged game studio over the last kind of 5 or 6 years. So I've been working in games for about 10 years, but it's been a relatively small scene in New Zealand up until about the last 3 years, and now there's some really big studios coming out of this country doing really, really well. So it's a really nice network of peers to talk about ideas with, and Fat Loot just became one of those people that we had an instant kind of appreciation for how they wanted to make games and how we wanted to make games. So it was a really kind of natural thing.
That's awesome. Fantastic stuff. So I mean, what do you think are the kind of unique components about Monster Racing League that are going to separate it from other blockchain games out there?
It's really fun to play.
That's good. I mean, I think every day though, I think that's going to be like harder and harder. You know, I think there is more and more fun stuff out there, and I mean, I think, you know, lots of different people find different things fun. I mean, obviously, like, you know, some people say that like Axie isn't fun. I mean, you know, me personally, I have enjoyed playing Axie at certain points. There's lots of people that like different kinds of games out there.
I totally agree, and I think the more this market matures, that has to happen, right? And we're coming from a traditional game developer market where the level of polish and the level of gameplay is high, and it needs to be high for you to stand out. And we're just bringing those sensibilities of like a proper game publisher, game developer to this space, and we're really excited by the community here and what's happening. And we've been really interested in the whole process of a kind of NFT raise in a blockchain game and how you gather the community around that. At the moment, it's been fascinating from a traditional game development point of view. But in terms of standing out, we think it's a great game anyway, without blockchain, and that's the reason why we wanted to launch a demo of the game for people to actually play, because we stand by the product, where there's no hiding behind the fact this is coming soon. We've got a demo out there that people can play and judge for themselves.
When I look at games, you know, I look at kind of, there's a factor I consider, and one of those factors is the mobility of the IP, the intellectual property, and the velocity of it. And with Monster Racing League, and also our other titles, but Monster Racing League especially, I see the IP as being very powerful. The cool die-cast looking cars, the monsters, the way that you can expand on that entire concept. John leaked at another AMA recently that, you know, it's very easy to take one of these monsters and throw it into a plane, throw it into a speedboat, and to expand and continue providing just continuous content. So while I think, yes, there's going to be other games that are fun to play, and there are other crypto games that are, you know, people have enjoyed playing, like Crypto Raiders and stuff, for example. But where I see them struggling is they're not able to put out content quickly enough to keep it involved and keep it fun and not have it be stale. So it really comes down to, in the long term, can you just keep pumping out fresh content that keeps your community engaged? And I think that's where, you know, Fat Loot, where Flightless are just going to excel ultimately, is that we can constantly keep putting out new game modes, different ways to use the monsters. And that's what's, in my mind, going to, in the long term, just separate us from the rest of the pack.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And, you know, speaking of like NFTs in the game, I'll ask you guys a quick tech question there in terms of like the blockchain that you guys have decided to go with. What was your decision there, and what kind of influenced your decision there in terms of like why did you choose the option that you did, and how do you kind of what are your thoughts on, like, you know, blockchains and L2s in the next 2 years or so?
I'll hop onto that one. So two major decisions. The first decision, I think that was the biggest one was our developers. So our developers did the exercise of going onto every single forum of a lot of different chains out there. And they went to see how many complaints were there, and how quickly were they being resolved, how long were they being left unresolved. And just from a support standpoint, we have to stand behind a product. Like when a gamer plays a game, whether it's Monster Racing League or Untamed Isles, they don't care if we tell them that, oh, Solana is broken or Polygon is broken or oh, ETH is slow. They just want the game to work, period. They don't care. So we had to find something where we were like, okay, this is where we want to put our eggs into this basket. And Polygon actually had some of the best results when our team went and just scoured the forums to see what the response was like. There was a lot of support. There's less bugs, less glitches, and we felt it would have the maximum uptime. And then just beyond that, it's the amount of money, the amount of traction the chain has gained. I mean, Polygon, if you look at it from 12 months ago, the massive announcements they've had of major brands outside of the crypto space looking to adopt it, and then also just traditional games coming into their space. It just seemed like there's going to be a lot of liquidity flowing into Polygon in the future and in the long term. So that's really what steered our decision for it. And in terms of like ETH2 and stuff, I'm not confident that ETH2 is going to really reduce gas fees per se. So you're going to have a scaling solution. I mean, let's be real here.
Interesting. Now that's really a good perspective. I'm definitely seeing a huge amount of interest for Polygon. It has the EVM compatible components, and there's definitely a lot going for it, for sure. In terms of like what NFTs are, what are the NFTs in Monster Racing League, and how does one like go out to, if you're a newbie, how do you kind of get into the game and go out, and what are the steps there?
First and foremost, you need to own a monster to participate. So to race, you need to own a monster. So monsters are an NFT in themselves, but there's other things in the game that, whoa, what's that noise? There's other things in the game that are NFTs. So the initial mint, you're actually getting a container, and in that container will be any of a monster, a racing car, so a car to racing, a pack of boosters, an ability. So all these things are things that are tradable and playable in the game.
Awesome.
Everything's like an NFT. Consumables, the monsters, the skins for the cars, everything is tradable.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So in terms of like, is there going to be a free-to-play mode of the game as well?
There will be, but it will not allow you to get rewards though. So people can play it, enjoy it, and stuff. But yeah, it won't like allow you to circumvent the play to earn side and kind of get in for free.
No, of course, and that makes a lot of sense. So obviously, like on the economy side, that's always one of the biggest challenges for a blockchain game. How do you kind of balance it? How do you ensure that, like, if we look at what's happened with many play to earn games so far, the tokens within the economy have often struggled to maintain sustainability. What are you guys doing to kind of counteract or mitigate that kind of thing?
So I'd say there's a couple of things. One is we've got two great full-time economists that work with us on all the Fat Loot titles. But even then, we had a lot of discussions with them, and they're like, "Look, guys, the crypto space is broken. How are we going to fix this? We don't see the two-token model surviving. But what we do believe in is that if you can take one token, the governance token, so keep the two-token model, but your governance token needs to be propped up by many games. It needs a lot of different economic sinks to keep it sustainable. Just having a single title, even an enormous title like Untamed Isles or enormous like Illuvium-sized title, it's probably even then not going to be sufficient to just long-term, we're talking 5-10 years, keep it sustained without just having enormous crashes, which then you worry about recovering from. You're always going to have some kind of down cycle in the economy. The question is, do you have the levers to pull to recover and get out of it as quickly as possible? So what happened was we sought out, like, we needed some kind of like an auditing. We needed some kind of like a third-party validation. And we actually have hooked up with a company called Machinations. So Machinations is well known in the traditional gaming space. They've done economic modeling for big MMOs and other games. They've gotten into the crypto space recently. Normally, a company goes to them and just pays for like a monthly software. Instead, what we've done is we've actually brought them on as advisors, and they've just started doing this. So there's like only a handful of projects that are just starting to go through this process, where they provide you a certification. They go through the entire game economy model with you. If they approve it and you have to make changes, if they don't agree with them, you get this little green check mark which says you're certified by them. So in return, they also are going to work with us basically like on a weekly basis after the game is launched to make sure that if there's danger on the horizon, we can make changes or make plans for changes for when it arrives. And then in return, they also have a decent chunk of skin in the game. I can't reveal all the stuff, but like one of the examples is they had to receive a nice chunk of fat loot token allocation and stuff from an advisory standpoint. So we've basically brought them on as like a very close partner. And I see this in the crypto world. Like what I see happening is that you're not having games listen to the economists. They're being given advice, but it's not being followed. And I think that just like you've got publicly traded companies, they have to have public auditing firms come and check their stuff. I think we're going to see this more in the space. Companies like Machinations and other stuff that pops up saying, okay, yeah, you've got economists, but you need external validation. You need a group that's watching over you to protect the communities, to really make sure things are being done properly. So it's a few different answers to it, but that's what our answer is for that.
Yeah, that's a fairly solid answer, and I mean it's interesting. You've obviously got all the different economic levers that you can pull. There's obviously the kind of game ecosystem that can. So in terms of the game, then in Monster Racing League, it's the kind of it's a single token economy, correct?
It's a 2 token. So you've still got you've still got a Knucklebone token and inflationary token. The key there is that we've got. So normally the main economic sink for a 2 token model is breeding, and that's part of the problem is you don't have a diverse enough pool of economic sinks. So between like the booster packs concept, that was one of the other things we loved about it, was to stay competitive in these races, you're really going to have to equip these consumables every race, and they only last that one race. So once you use it, it's gone. So you're going to have to reinvest by continuing to play and continuing to reinvest that the utility token, the inflationary one, to stay competitive. So you can't just basically like dump all of your tokens, keep them for profit, and then simultaneously stay competitive. You have to keep on spending them through different kinds of economic sinks. Some I can't discuss that are really sweet that are coming later as other game modes, but even initially we've got quite a few that go well beyond just simply breeding.
I think this is the great thing with working with you guys is that we obviously we care a lot about the game design and the gameplay, and working with Ashish and the economics team to make sure that we've got all the appropriate sinks that tie into enough of that dopamine hitting gameplay was really important. And that's worked really well, and we can't wait to get that out and get people playing that.
For sure, that sounds really cool. So in this game as well, like as guilds, because obviously YGG is a play-to-earn blockchain gaming guild. What's the kind of guild v guild, or what's that going to look like within Monster Racing League?
It's definitely going to be one is we're going to have dashboards. We're going to have make it very, very simple for guilds to manage all of their stuff, automatically get scholar payments and stuff. We think Pegaxy did a phenomenal job, even though they're struggling a little bit now. They've done a revolutionary job in terms of guild management on the game level, which was, it's even now I have Axes and it's a struggle to get all my scholars paid and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to make that a lot easier just from a management perspective. And then outside of that, just the format of this, we can hold tournaments, we can have competitive circuits. I'm really excited about having, like guild versus guild competitions, like take 2 big guilds and have like a weekend tournament of the top players and 6v6 races and other game formats. So we do want to build this up on a competitive circuit level. So just beyond simply like, YGG or this guild, Avocado or whatever it is up on the leaderboard, we want to actually like pit you guys against each other in events. That would be really sweet. So yeah, we want to create another level of competition between you all.
Yeah, there's such a roadmap for kind of a range of organized tournaments at every level with this game, and I think as with any good multiplayer game these days, if it's fun and addictive, it becomes a great social place to spend time anyway. And I think Monster Racing League is that. Plus, it's extremely watchable, so we really want to cater to people that want to stream stuff. It's done in a broadcast kind of type style in terms of the camera angles, and we found because you're not actually steering the car, you can be a lot more graceful with your camera moves. You don't have to track the player one for one the whole time, and it means you can have a really watchable race from a standby or use the standby point of view, which is really nice.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting concept, because obviously the whole idea of being able to kind of like create kind of cinematic moments, I suppose, is maybe then like a big component of the game, like try and make the most exciting action sequence within the game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole game idea came from a few of us in the studio watching Matchbox car YouTube videos. There's a YouTube channel called 3D Bot Maker, and we've got kids that love Matchbox cars, and these are just like die-cast cars going down tracks being commentated to, and it was really, really watchable. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to make a game that kind of encapsulated that fun, naive, fun aspect? And that's kind of where it came from, is watching stuff, and it turns out that playing it that way is really fun too.
That's awesome. So I know that we can obviously, as normal, there's always the opportunity here to ask questions of the team. We have a chat going on the Discord right now, so if you have any questions for the guys, do drop your questions into the chat now. Don't forget, this video is being streamed on Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, lots of different social channels. Please make sure to like, share, tell your loved ones about this. As normal, it'd be great to have the promotion as always, of course. I've got some questions there from the community already. Obviously, one of which I think I'd already jumped ahead and asked, obviously, which is free to play. And is there, if you are playing as free to play, can you get any NFT items or tokens? You've already answered that one, so obviously, no, you don't earn. Via playing the kind of free to play, if you grind really hard, can you win any NFTs, or is it absolutely no kind of earnings or anything at all?
I don't like to say never, but really we do need to protect, if someone's being
100%.
charged $200 to mint or something, it's got to be fair. But what I will say is we do have some tweaks over even Pegasus model planned in terms of the rental system, in the sense that I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that, I don't want to give it away, but you should be able to grind as a scholar and in some other formats that I have not seen exist in the space yet, to get you to the point that you're describing.
For sure, that definitely makes sense. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, like, maybe if someone does like really like grind for months and months and months, and like clearly shows that they have like mad skills, that you get, eventually give them something. But yeah, I'm definitely 100% on the same page as you guys. Like, I think in a free-to-play game, it's extremely risky to actually to give any earnings away for free. So since the driving feature of the game is automated, will there be a different mode in the future where the players can control the driving aspect of the game?
Probably not. I mean, it's honestly, I think once people play it, it sounds funny. It's a driving game, but with no driving. But once you play it, you realize there's quite a lot going on, and you're quite thankful for the fact that you don't have to steer, and it allows you to take. There's a lot of strategy involved before the race, seeing what other players have equipped their abilities to their monster with. So there's pre-game strategy, and then there's strategy throughout the race of when you actually time these abilities. So there's more than enough gameplay to be ultra competitive without having the steering aspect, and that's kind of our point of difference, really. It's a car game without having to steer. So probably not, but there'll be plenty of different modes to keep you entertained for sure.
I kind of one kind of idea, and this just popped into my head now, is the idea that you could have like maybe it should take two players to play one car, one driver and one gunner, and then you kind of have this kind of X-wing, or not X-wing, because X-wing is a single-seater,
Like a
the
co-pilot.
B-wing, where you have like the two guys back to back, and it's like go get that guy over there, and like
That is-
no, you're driving the wrong way, that kind of thing. Like
Wingman, you got a wingman.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just kind of spitballing some ideas there, but you never know. Maybe it could be an interesting component. But I completely get where you guys are coming from. But like it could kind of make it into a good bit of teamwork there. Like who's the good driver and who's the good gunner?
Well, actually, teamwork I don't want to give spoilers away, but teamwork is definitely a mode we're thinking of, like a 3 versus 3 in a downhill.
Awesome. I think you touched on this earlier, but we'll just reiterate that one again. Obviously, it's available on both PC and Mac right now. Available to play right now. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Awesome, guys. So make sure to check out the game, give it a play. Let us know what you think. Come back into the comment sections and make sure to tell us and feedback to the team. In terms of the mobile game being released, what's the kind of outlook there?
Well, PC and Mac first, desktop first, and then move to mobile. We're a traditional multi-platform game developer, so most of our games come out on console, PC, and mobile, if not mobile first. So that's definitely where we head towards. We're pretty platform agnostic. So yeah, definitely on the roadmap.
Awesome, and you said an exciting thing for me there. Oh, sorry, Ashish, go ahead.
Yeah, so just for the current version of the game that you can play, you don't need to buy anything. It's literally like you can play for free, test it out, see it. We just want to, before people buy stuff, we want them to see how far along the game is, test it out, try it out. We felt that was just new to the space. Most games, they say, hey, buy this, and like a year later, we'll give you a product. We wanted everyone to see what we've got and how close we are to delivering, and let them have a taste before they spend any money.
Yeah, so the single player game at the moment is the demo, and then multiplayer is the true game coming further later on. So yeah,
exciting stuff for sure. So you heard it here, mobile games are in the pipeline. When console, who can be the first blockchain game to get onto a console? That's exciting.
Well, things are changing pretty quickly. We've heard some good things about various platforms being interested. So yeah, that's definitely one for us to watch. We've got pretty good.
That sounds exciting. That's what we need to take us out of this bear market blues. We need PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo even to all go nuts and embrace NFTs, because I think that's one of the amazing things that people forget. Like, there's so much kind of misunderstanding in the industry about like what it means. What NFTs really mean or can do. A lot of misunderstanding about the technology, and I think it's something that really makes sense in the context of gaming. I, for one, have experimented a little bit with kind of the kind of PFP thing, but it's definitely not my kind of core interest. I'm much more kind of focused on kind of game assets, and I think that as we see this kind of thing happening, it'll only become more and more evident that like this kind of tech really makes so much sense for gaming and can really kind of heighten our ability to kind of interact with games as a whole, and start like this concept of like tying games back in together, and how your experience or achievements from within one game could start altering and affecting the experience of another game, and the way that you could have assets that you end up like getting this Monster Racing League car, and then maybe down the line maybe you guys release a completely different game that does have the racing component in the future, right? So I
couldn't agree more. I
Yeah.
I think more of that needs to be seen, and I think there's a strange stance with NFTs in games at the moment that is not healthy. I mean, it's just a game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one thing that I'm pretty excited about to see is how I think NFTs, especially in the context of gaming, definitely need to have some of the financialized components taken away, if anything. I think like I'm really interested and excited for the concept of like mass market NFTs. They need to be equivalent to like the experience that other people have with current Web 2 games. So I'd pay like $50-$60 for a game. Maybe that I'd use that NFT. It kind of accrues all this kind of history and narrative around it, and then in the future, when that studio releases another game, maybe like because I've achieved X, Y, and Z things within that game, they can then do me a drop for a future game. Maybe not like and this kind of mechanics, I really don't think that the incumbents are really understanding just how amazing this could be. From an automation point of view, it's going to actually make their lives a lot easier potentially, and also create huge new interesting revenue streams and long-lasting, impactful ways of creating narrative in the way that's never existed before. And this kind of concept of narrative value is something as well. It's like value shouldn't come from just like this kind of Ponzi-nomic speculation. It should come from like true value that's perceived as like, wow, that's a historical item. It's done this, it's done that, and now this value, you know, someone else is like a true collector. I want that thing. I'm gonna pay this for it. And then even though like the core game doesn't necessarily always have to be completely about earning, but over time, this is what's going to kind of make the kind of blockchain gaming space really kind of, you know, I'm a passionate gamer. I play a lot of different games. You know, I've got PlayStation 5 right there in front of me, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch these kind of two worlds really kind of collide and just merge more and more and more to the point where it's all just becomes this like cohesive, you know, just gaming as a whole. And some just have like, you know, earning and ownership, and some don't. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that's a fantastic approach to things, and having that ownership or that sense of pride that you've spent X amount of years playing a game with, like the character sitting behind me here. I mean, we've designed these characters for you to form that emotional attachment to them, and the whole design premise on these characters are like a collectible toy. We're actually, Ashish, I haven't mentioned this yet, but we're actually in talks with 3D resin printing these characters as well, so you'll have a physical manifestation possibly of your NFT character that you play in the game. And yeah, from a game developer point of view, it's a no-brainer. If one of your players has spent so much time forming a bond with this character, why not drop that character or a comparison character in your next game and allow that player on board into your next game? It makes so much sense.
Absolutely, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like, you know, like giving the entire game away for free. It's just a mechanism to be able to like filter, and maybe you give them early access. You know, and I think obviously I'm going to throw kind of a bit of an unusual. This is kind of going a bit into the. Don't really talk about this in some of the AMAs that we do, but I'm interested to know, with all the excitement around like soulbound and reputational NFTs, is that something that you've thought about including in Monster Racing League?
I haven't talked to John about it, but yeah, I'm very excited about SBTs. I mean, SBTs technically aren't, you know, new.
And for those in the audience, SBT is the acronym for soulbound tokens, or non-transferable NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, it's all they're doing is you could already create something that was stuck. Like you could literally create on the contract level a switch to turn it on and off, and if it was just permanently off, you couldn't transfer it. What they're doing is just making it standard so that now it's, you know, any person who doesn't even have a lot of coding knowledge can just copy paste the smart contract template, and boom, you've got something that literally can't move around. And I'm very excited to like have achievements. Have the scholars like tracked of their performance. I'm a little wary of the negative side. Like I'm not too thrilled that, okay, someone could use it and say, oh, this person did this negative thing or that. I think as long as it's just compiling constant positive things, that's like a resume, a passport for you to carry along, I think that's enormous. And you can bring it from game to game. You can have it within your own game. One issue you have in this space is there's a lot of, even in the play to earn space, that people like who you can't tell, is this scholar really experienced? Have they really done what they've said they've done? So if you could have SBTs for these like little achievements that are locked, that are tied to a wallet that you can't manipulate and stuff, I mean, I think that's huge.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the idea as well that it can be a mechanism that can further reinforce your abilities as developers to kind of correctly align the incentives of the players and the kind of whole earning flow. So what I mean by that is saying, like, imagine you have like you can either be a scholar or a player. Either way, if you're participating in the game and you have some mechanism to identify that like this player is like burning up all the tokens that they earn, and then you issue them an SBT off the back of knowing that they've burnt all their play to earn tokens, you can award them this SBT, which then allows them access to maybe future high earning tournaments, but they're only allowed in there because they burnt so many tokens. So you're kind of aligning the incentives all around, you're driving value back into the economy. And I think this is and obviously you can do things like as governance becomes more meaningful, this is something that you can assign, you know, governance multipliers to. I think this is going to revolutionize like crypto completely, and kind of could really help evolve the concept of like a more meritocratic, more fair system where those who are like, it's an anti-whale mechanic, so like you can't necessarily just like buy your way into like having huge governance rights. I think something like using SBTs and like a significant number of even like there's talk of the concept of having SBTs themselves, but then also having maybe a more kind of like experience points based, like not fungible, but like a more like metaverse XP kind of concept of like just like a point system. But yeah, of course, I completely get your concerns over the potential negatives. I for one definitely agree that it should predominantly be something that is positive. I think, on the game side, but I suppose there is still instances where, depending on if people's actions are provably bad, that maybe it's a big topic of conversation. Like, what can we do there? So I think Sil has asked there about whether, in terms of like controlling the cars, I think we touched on that. I think it's definitely TBD on the controlling of cars for esports, but we'll have to just wait and see. I think we've maybe put some ideas in the guys' heads there. So I've got one final question, which is a question that I sometimes ask. If there was any kind of game that I'm sure it sounds to me like you guys are big gaming fans. If there is any, out of all the kind of games that you guys know and love, that you'd love to see in the kind of blockchain context, what would those be?
Wow, that's a good question.
Oh, I gotta think about that.
Yeah,
I know. No, I know, because we had this conversation, and I never thought of this in the blockchain space, but I'm a huge fan of it. In fact, if you're a Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne player, you might be familiar with like a Zoatar tower defense. That was one of the first tower defense games I played. So we were just chatting around with some of the guys in the company, and someone brought up like, have you guys seen any tower defense games in crypto? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, but I love tower defense. So
I think there's Crazy Defense Heroes from Animoca Brands. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh no, I
yeah,
haven't seen that.
Yeah.
You can actually access that on mobile and stuff like that. Seems pretty cool.
It's blockchain integrated and everything.
I think I think that it's kind of got like two modes. You can kind of play it completely non-blockchain, and then you can kind of progressively get more involved.
Okay.
There's actually I've seen quite a lot, from pitches and stuff like that. I've definitely seen quite a number of tower defense games in the pipeline. So I'm sure there's also like Castle Crush, which isn't really. I'm not sure if I'd really classify that as like tower defense, but kind of is definitely worth checking out. I believe that's from Wildlife Studios. We probably made an announcement there. Those guys are like a big mobile Web 2 project, and you can actually download Castle Crush now. Again, it's like got a big player base, and they're introducing NFTs and earning to that as well. John, how about yourself? Do you have any thoughts on that one?
No, I don't. It's crazy.
Oh,
but
come
as a
on,
game
John. Okay, what's your favorite? What's one of your favorite games?
One of my favorite games, this sounds stupid, but it's a little mobile game from back in the day called Sword and Sorcery by Super Brothers. And it's just got the best tone, and it's got this really ironic soundtrack to it. And I would love to see that kind of narrative pathfinding type game come to the space. But I also agree with Ashish, like a tower defense game would be really nice. A good tower defense game would be really nice, and a real time strategy space game. I'm a sucker for those.
Yeah. I can't name any names right now, but I mean there is influence, but I don't think that's kind of like true RTS necessarily.
No.
Though there is going to be components. If you guys haven't checked that out, YGG's obviously got involved with influence. That's definitely interesting. I think it's slightly more towards the kind of like grand strategy, resource management kind of side of the kind of RTS. But I for one am like a big StarCraft fan as well, so I'm super excited to see something like that. Though obviously it's about balancing, like in a game like an RTS, it's about fairness. So like, how do NFTs kind of play into that, and how do you maintain balance? Obviously, you don't want to kind of overpower them. You have to manage like how do you build an economy around that. But for sure, that makes sense. So we've got some good answers there. Great, guys. Well, look, I know that I think I'm not seeing many more questions. I know that there's a lot of excitement in the chat over the physical toys that John teased there. So I know that I think a lot of people do like physical collectibles still, and having like a tied digital thing is definitely something that I'm really excited to see more of for sure. So I'd just like to thank everyone that's obviously tuned in today for another YGG AMA, and thanks guys from Monster Racing League for joining us today. Ashish, John, great to have you there. In terms of like keeping up to date with what's going on with Monster Racing League, what would you guys say is the kind of best way? I'm assuming. What's the best
Well,
way
we
to
have
keep up with Monster
we
Racing
have a really active Discord server at the moment, and you can get to that via our website at monsterracingleague.com. Check us out on Twitter as well, and all the social media usual places are linked to from the website. But the Discord's great. We've got a great community, people playing the game. We've got different kind of competitions going on based around the demo and other activities on the Discord. It's pretty fun.
Awesome guys, awesome guys. Thanks so much for coming on. It looks like we've got some Monster Racing League fans in the Discord chat, so make sure to hit them up. Make sure to join the Monster Racing League Discord. Follow them on Twitter. Keep up to date with what's going on. And again, thanks everyone for coming. And we're looking forward to jumping on and having a go at the game. So see you guys in the metaverse. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and your time. And yeah, go and have a jam.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.
See ya.